Hey, what is going on, Fan Clan? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Danny Phantump. Happy Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or whatever day it is that you're watching this video. Thanks for coming here. I hope you guys are having a really good week so far. I hope your day is going great. We are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of possibly Pokemon's most hyped set of all time, and that is Shining Fates. I actually oftentimes refer to February of 2021 as the darkest period in Pokemon TCG history when it comes to product supply, because people were getting so frustrated. People were getting so upset they couldn't find Shining Fates in stores. When they did find it, it was double MSRP or triple MSRP online. There were lines of people all over the place. Couldn't find any product in stores. People were fighting. People were getting mad. People were getting angry. People were yelling. It was not a good time for Pokemon, and things started to calm down a little bit. But I do want to kind of revisit things to see how Shining Fates is doing, because it started to get produced enough, and there was enough product that has kind of filled the void over the past 10-11 months now, where Shining Fates really dipped down in price. And a couple months ago, it was really, really low. We shot a video going over how far it dipped compared to pre-order prices, compared to opening week prices, and it was super, super low. So I kind of wanted to take a look back now that we're coming up on the year anniversary and just see how are things going. And some of these numbers might really, really surprise you. But before we do begin, I do want to remind everybody we are giving away 2 Evolutions Elite Trainer boxes, 1 Charizard and 1 Blastoise. There are going to be 2 winners, each one taking home one of these lovely ETBs. To enter to win, all you have to do is go back to the video that I just posted a couple days ago going over the Evolutions market. Just leave a like, leave a comment, and make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We're going to pick the winner this upcoming Sunday. We're going to announce the winner. So like I said, just go back to that video, like, comment, subscribe, boom, you're entered, and then tune in on Sunday to see if you win. With that being said, I'm going to flip you guys around, and we're sticking with the graphs. So you have to let me know in the comment section down below if you enjoy the graphs. We'll keep going with it. Hopefully you do enjoy it. I did kind of highlight a few sealed items with Shining Fates because those are the products that I find the most interesting. We're going to start out looking at Shining Fates booster packs, which right now has a market price of about $6.64. I do want to preface everything before jumping into this that you can probably find some of the products that we're talking about for cheaper prices if you go on eBay, if you search, if you dig a little bit. This is just kind of taking the market prices on TCG Player, which really shows kind of a good trend for us to follow. So if we're looking at Shining Fates booster packs, this is kind of creeped up a little bit, as you can see here going at the graph. There's been a lot of peaks and valleys. At one point, it was up to $7.44 back in June. Granted, this is when TCG Player began using these graphs. Before June, the prices were considerably higher, but they went down to $7.44 right around June. And it dipped all the way down to $6.23 at the end of December, and then it started rising. It's dipped a little bit, but I do expect it to go back up a little bit more, because if we look at the Shining Fates Elite Trainer box, this is very confusing to me. I looked earlier this morning. This graph has data that's like a day old because I put all these graphs together a day or two ago. The high point right now is $77.44. That's actually the current price point, but this is actually higher now as of this morning. Not by much. It's only at like $78.50, but it continues to climb. And if you look here, if we go back to June, I mean, it was significantly lower than what it is right now. Back in December, it was all the way down to $63.26. In fact, there was a stretch when we started getting bombarded with products at the end of December where you started getting to the point where you were able to find Darkness Ablaze, Vivid Voltage, every set basically that's in the current standard. It went all the way down to $63.26. These were on PokemonCenter.com's website at $50 at MSRP for like a couple weeks. People were able to get them. But now those have gone. And if you look, $76.03, actually $77.44 is the current price, all the way up here at the end of January, beginning of February, which is absolutely insane. And I started looking at TCG Player, and I wanted to know, are these selling? And sure enough, they are. They're not flying off the shelves by any means, but there's 7, 8, 9 a day that are typically moving. But one thing to take note of is if you look on TCG Player, a lot of times your price is going to be impacted by the quantities that the sellers have. So if you look on TCG Player, and there's 77 listings of people who are selling or companies that are selling these Shining Fates ETBs, but for the most part, I would say probably 90% of those companies only have 1 or 2 or 3. So every time one sells, every day basically, when 7, 8, 9 of these sell, it starts ticking up that price a little bit more because supply is going down. So that really begs us to wonder, okay, is Shining Fates going to be up for another reprint? Are we going to get more of these ancillary products down the line? Do you think Pokemon Center is going to put more up on their website now that we're kind of hitting that year point? Are you still seeing Shining Fates product in stores? Are you able to find it anywhere? Because now we're starting to get to the point where prices are getting a little bit more expensive. And we can start looking back to Champion's Path, which is over $100 right now for an Elite Trainer box, and that was produced, what, 6 months before Shining Fates? So is it going to follow that trend? And that's something that's really important to kind of take a look at. The only card that I pulled from the actual Shining Fates set to look at was this Full Art Skyla right here. It's starting to creep up a little bit, but not too much. It was at $20.50 back in June, dipped all the way down to $10 in November, and now it's creeped up a little bit. It's up a couple bucks, so not a huge jump by any means, but starting to trend in that upward direction. Everything else I pulled from the Shiny Volt section. There's some that really stand out as why is this kind of performing the way it's performing, and we're going to look at that in a second. I also wanted to take a look at the premium collections because in my mind, these were the products that were kind of the most difficult to find. They didn't go through tons of reprints like we saw with some of the other items. I believe the Bolton tins and the Cramorant tins, those were on Pokemon Center's website for a very, very long time a few months ago, and I did not see any of these premium collections. So if you've seen a lot of these out there, definitely let me know. But these were retailing for $40. $40 was the MSRP. This is the Crobat one right here, and this is the Dragapult one. Both very similar in price points, both for their highs and their lows, but you can see sealed product really starting to rise. At one point, it was down to $46.24 for the Crobat, $46.56 for the Dragapult, and that was kind of in that June area. And then all we've done since then pretty much is rise to the point where we're almost at all-time highs for both of these products. Crobat is just below its all-time high, sitting at $57.46. It needs about $1 more to get to that all-time high. And the Dragapult is at $62.82, so it is at its new high point right now, its highest it's been since June, basically. So very, very interesting to kind of look at that sealed product right there. If we look at the Suicune card, this is the most expensive, all of the baby shinies in the set. This was actually very, very expensive when it came out. It's starting to trend downward a little bit, as you can see right here, after seeing a little nice uptick in price. But $34.84 was its high back in June, and then it really settled down to this $18.73 that we saw in November. Starting to climb back up, so now it's at $20.18, a couple dollars higher, much like that Skyla. So we'll see if it starts trending upwards now that product is a little bit less available. And I've also seen a lot of people start to hype up these baby shiny cards, which also could impact the price. Drizzile is an interesting one to look at because of its competitive implications. I do expect this card to actually go down quite a bit in price because I think the Inteleon engine is going to start fading out, especially once Legends of Arceus releases. It'll be interesting to see. But the reason this Drizzile has started to really gain steam back in September or October was because a lot of people were starting to play that Inteleon line in decks, and people want the max rarity of the card. So Drizzile, the max rarity, is going to be this baby shiny version of it with Shady Dealings. It was at $27.68 back at the end of August, and then it dipped all the way down to $8.58 in June. Right now it's kind of settled off to about $17.34. Again, if you're waiting to buy this Drizzile for your master set for some reason, I would wait a few more months. I do expect this card specific and the Inteleon to go down in price because I think they will have much less relevance in the competitive scene shortly. If we look at Inteleon, its low point was $11.67 back in June, little bit higher in the middle of January, but now it's spiked up quite a bit and started to level off. We'll see if that continues. It's at $13 right now. Its high point was at $15, low point at $11, so kind of right in the middle right there. Ditto VMAX, the shiny, has started to gain a little bit of steam, and we'll see if it continues heading in that upward direction. It was up to $13.47 back in June. Now it's sitting at $10.66, so it's right in the middle of its high and low. Its low was $8.43 back in October. If we look at Decidueye, which saw some huge drops, it started at $11.78. It went down to $8 back in end of December, it looks like, and now it's starting to creep up just a little bit. It's a little bit above its 52-week low or 6-month low, whatever you want to call it right now, but trending in the right direction. Same thing with Cinderace. I was a little surprised at how high Cinderace is, but I mean, it is a starter from Sword and Shield, so I guess it does make sense. High point of $10.74, low point of $7 which had also hit at the end of December, and now it started to climb back up a little bit. Galarian Ponyta is an interesting one because it did take such a big hit. So it was at $16.69 back in June, and look at how far it's fallen. It's at its 52-week low or 6-month low right now at $8.48. It's really suffered, so it'll be interesting to see if that starts trending in the upward direction like we're seeing from a few of these other cards. Same thing with Galarian Rapidash that Galarian Ponyta is doing. Its low point 848 is what it's at right now. Its high point was 1462 back in June, but now once product is starting to get a little less plentiful, we'll see if these cards start to kind of churn upwards in price. I also think a lot of Shining Fates cards went out to PSA to get graded right before PSA shut down, so there might be a lot of those that are kind of sitting there waiting to be graded and waiting to hit the market. If we look at Grimmsnarl, this one was very, very interesting to me because its low point was actually in September, but prior to that, back in June, where a lot of these high points are, it actually was not that much higher than its low point. And its high point right now of $9.18 was just hit back at the end of December. And that's when we're looking at a lot of these low numbers for a lot of these other cards. So Grimmsnarl has rebounded extremely well and performed very well. It's at $8.33 right now, which is not too far off of its high point of $9.18, which it hit at the beginning of December. The third starter, which we haven't talked about yet, Rillaboom, high point of $8.51, low point of $6.59. It's a little bit lower than its high point right now, $8.06, but again, trending in the upward direction. A lot of these baby shinies are starting to go up, which is why it's worth taking note of right now to kind of see if, as you look at kind of filling out your master set, what you want to do here. If we look at the Eternatus VMAX, this was a very interesting card because a lot of people didn't know how these gold and black cards were going to respond, and the answer was not too great. If you look here, it's continuing to trend downwards. Its low point was actually at the end of December, or like what we've seen as the high point of the last couple cards we talked about. But it's still really, really close to that low point at $7.92. Its low was $7.05. In August, it was up just over $15.50. So a huge, huge drop right there. If we look at Coughing, very interesting card because it's got this big, big dip down here, kind of in October, which is, it's just weird timing. Its high point was $10.15 back in June, starting to trend a little bit downward from where it was a couple of months ago. But for the most part, it's been relatively flat since then, kind of sitting in the middle of its high and low at $7.62. And finally, the last card that I want to talk about was Cincino, high point of $10.14, which should hit back in September, it looks like. End of September, middle of October, we'll say. Low point of $5.58, which should hit end of December like we saw a lot of these other cards do. But now it's really starting to trend in that upward direction again. It had a little bit of a dip here, kind of in the middle of January, starting to go up and really just kind of flatten out. So right now we're looking at a lot of cards that have started to rise a little bit and flatten out. And as those prices on TCG Player for this sealed product continue to tick higher and higher, makes you wonder if some of these single cards are going to follow suit. I did look at TCG Player just to kind of get a better gauge of where master sets are going. You can have 98 out of 122 of the shiny set for under $5, which is absolutely crazy. So there's only 24 cards in that whole shiny Volt set that are worth more than $5. 32 of those cards can be had for under $2. So that's buying those baby shinies that maybe you need for your master set. You can find those for under $2, 32 of them on TCG Player, which is very, very interesting. I did look on eBay just to kind of get an understanding of where master sets were. And master sets, there were a couple listings that I found that were $700 for the entirety of the master set. And I did verify through the pictures. I looked at the description because that felt really, really cheap to me. So that's an average of $5.74 per shiny Volt card, and then that's basically like getting the main set for free if you, because $5.74 times 122 gives you that $700, and then basically you're not adding anything on for that main set. But if you're figuring $5.74 per every shiny Volt card when you're considering that Charizard VMAX is included in there, and we didn't talk about the Charizard VMAX because we touched on it last week in our Charizard video, but very, very, very cheap in my opinion. And the main set, obviously, lots of full art trainers. Basically, you're getting for free. So kind of want to just throw that information out there. If Shiny Fates is a set that you're kind of still looking looking at finishing. Maybe waited a little bit too long because it doesn't look like, we'll see if a lot of these cards kind of trickle back down, but for the most part it seems like a lot of product has already been exhausted. So you'll have to let me know in the comment section down below if you're still seeing product out there, if you've been able to find any, because now that sealed stuff is really starting to tick upwards. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me talk, and I really do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Please hit that like button down below to help spread the video. Leave a comment to help with the algorithm. Share the video, recommend it, do whatever you got to do. Let's get the video in front of as many people as we can, and hit that subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. But I know you are, because you guys are awesome. So thank you for everything. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.